What's up, pod pals? It is your buddy Adam, and you're checking out Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a very special podcast audit episode. I've got my pod pal, Leanne from the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. I know those three words just sing to some of your hearts at their beach, travel, wine. So I'm very excited to dive in. Leanne is somebody that she's got an interesting show, an interesting niche, and I can't wait to dig in and see what we come up with. So Leanne, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Nice to be here.
All right. So let's dig in. I want to learn a little bit about some of the goals you have for your show and for your brand specifically. So like over the next 6 months, if we sit down having another conversation like this and things are really ramping up, kind of paint that picture for me.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that, and it's, I think it would be good if Beach Travel Wine was one of the travel podcasts that people knew the name of. There are a few out there that are quite popular and have been around for a while. So that would be a goal. Of course, the download thing's always going to be a great thing to increase and get into that, probably the 1,000 downloads, which puts you in that top percentage would be good as well. And just being asked to maybe go on other travel shows because we've got some great info and content to help people.
Okay. I love all three of these bullet points because to me, it really the key thing is how do we make your show stand out? Like, how do we make it unique and different to where other shows in the industry are like, oh, we've got to have them on the show for sure. And you got listeners just popping in and going, oh, I'm obsessed with this show. So I think that could be a decent starting focus point. How do we be unique and different? I think in the travel podcast space, there's a lot of people that are, doing their thing. They're going out and about. They do reviews and things like that. So as far as standing out, are there any ideas that you've thought about or things you'd be curious about exploring about how you could be different or how you already are different than the typical travel podcast?
Well, yeah, we're sort of trying to find our unique niche. There is some of the travel podcasts are more, how I walked across Afghanistan or how I, took my 17 kids and we traveled the world and,
right.
That they have very extreme, things. So, but we are a bit more mainstream, I guess. So yeah, trying to find something makes us different. But because we are retired and we can travel when we want to, then just maybe that's one of our pluses, and also that we want to keep it pretty casual and fun and be realistic about traveling too. You don't have to go to all the major spots and you try and make it more about enjoying the experience as you go as well. So other than that, I don't know. We're trying to focus on the wine bit of it, and we at the end of every podcast we ask where our favorite place to have a wine was in that particular destination. That I guess that's sort of the wine and travel and the happy hour sort of thing. That's probably a bit of a different take that we have on our podcast.
Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of where I was going to encourage you to lean into is, there are other people talking about beaches and traveling, but adding the wine into it as a specific sub niche of people that are really into wine, as well as I, it's like these people, it's like people that are obsessed with coffee or it's like they are very opinionated. They love learning. They love sharing ideas and sharing thoughts about wine.
Sure.
There's lots of layers to go into about it. So I really like that and just leaning into those aspects. So talking about where the best place was to go and consume a wine beverage. I like that a lot. Maybe even, I think we could do some inviting of audience participation. Like I use SpeakPipe to just set up quick links for my, I think you've used mine before where you can just record audio and I can take it and put it on my show. So let's say you're going to Barcelona, Spain, or something like that. And you go and you do the whole show, and then you vote for where your favorite place was to have some wine. And then maybe you ask a question. Hey, if you've been to Barcelona, where was your favorite place to have wine? And then you set up a little SpeakPipe link where they can submit audio and you can put it into the next episode, or you could put it in social media or email marketing ahead of time and include it in this episode. These are our thoughts on Barcelona, Spain. And here are yours that you submitted via the SpeakPipe link. And then you get people submitting their own recommendations. That way, it's a little bit of a broader resource. So it's not just your opinions. Now it's kind of community crowdsourced information of all the best spots around that area or all across Spain or whatever, even if you have a focus region. I think that could be pretty cool. Like you deploy your listener reserves and they're all like, here, here, here. And then you've got a map of all these cool spots to go. I mean, you could have people do that ahead of time before you travel too. Ask for suggestions, and then you guys go and hit some of these and kind of do some reviews and things like that. I think that would be one pretty cool way to get the audience involved. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, that's probably better than asking them to send me an email. Yeah, right.
Yeah, giving people very specific calls to action works a lot better, especially I think with your travel-based show. To me, travel means experience, and people love talking about and sharing experiences. Like it's an interesting thing. So I think your audience will be excited to share their version of the experience that you had. So I think it could work.
Sure. Everybody likes, if you've been somewhere, everyone likes to tell you that they've been there and when they went, and for sure. Yeah.
So I would think about all the different ways you could crowdsource information. And you have to figure out what would work best for you all. Like, is it, okay, we're mapping out our next trip, and in our social media and newsletter, we are asking our audience to submit audio clips, suggestions, etc., for places to go, beaches to see, wine places to go to. Or are we doing that? Is it a better idea, a better fit, and get better reaction? This is something you have to test of. We do the episode, then ask the question, where did you go? And then you get all those responses and put it in a follow-up episode. Like that could even be its own separate episode, as like you do your travel episode where you have your experience. The next one could be all the crowdsourced information where you showcase everybody else's experiences, and you kind of have, they could submit questions, but they could also submit actual experiences, places, beaches they saw, places that they visited that maybe you didn't get to go to, wine that they tasted that was fantastic, where they got that. So it could be a front end or a back end. And I would definitely recommend just kind of experimenting with both and see what's easiest to get people's information. So it's not like pulling teeth trying to extract audio clips from your audience. And, I don't know. I'd be very interested to see, because I'm thinking if you ask them to submit ahead of time, if they're a real fan of your show, they'll probably jump on that because they'll be like excited to see if you take their suggestion, and you go to that place and like, I suggested that.
True. Yeah.
Or, maybe they're newer to your show and they catch the episode and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been there and they didn't go to this place that everyone has to know about this one place that I went to. Maybe you do both. I don't know. And it's just more robust. But I think as podcasters, we can never, ever go wrong asking our audience to participate and help create content. So is that making sense so far?
Yeah. That's I'm trying to think of the best way, whether people want to give you advice or they want to tell you where they've been. So
I would test it out. Let's see what happens. But I think when you talk about standing out in your niche, if you can be like, I call it being the people's champion. There are all these famous, like, I'm sure there are people that are celebrities that have travel shows, or people that are on like the Travel Channel. They have TV shows, and then like they're doing their own travel podcast. Like they've got a media advantage and they've got all these people. But how do we get an advantage? We become the people's champion, and those people, their brands are too large to interact with people on an individual basis. But we can do that. We can, and that's how we stand out. And like I did this in the fitness space, where fitness and health and weight loss, it's a huge, huge niche. And I stood out because I was actually bringing people on and talking to them about what they were struggling with and going one-to-one and really just like eyeball to eyeball, building it one relationship at a time. And I ended up growing my show bigger than a lot of the big brand people. Like when I'd see the rankings, I'm like, wow, I'm ahead of Dr. Oz and the CrossFit podcast and all these things. And I'm like, I podcast out of my basement. So
Sure.
some pretty incredible things can
Okay.
happen.
Yep.
But yeah, I would continue to challenge yourselves with the question of like, how do we get our audience involved? Like, how do we really make them a part of the show, whether it's on social media, through the email marketing, or the show itself.
Yep.
And
Okay.
then, yeah, and again, just being as specific as possible with those calls to action. And then later on, you can do like what I did, where you ask people for a favorite podcast episode. They could have a travel tip Tuesday, or whatever, like little things where you're just dropping
Yep.
audio with that. But every episode that you do, I would be like, is there an opportunity to do a call to action that we could pull audience audio out there? And I would just use SpeakPipe. So test that out. All right.
Well, our next overseas trip is Mexico next month. So I'm, thinking about maybe getting people to, give me some
Yeah.
ideas and for
Yes.
that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you release an episode, is it just an individual one episode about the trip, or is it multiple episodes? Is there like a preparation episode of how you prepare for the trip, or anything like that?
We haven't done a preparation episode. We generally just do, like, Mexico will be more than one podcast. Like we've done a whole series on Spain. We did a podcast on sort of each city we visited. Mexico is going to be a bit different because we're actually doing a tour and we haven't done one before. So I thought I'd do like every couple of days, do like a 10-minute, review of how the tour's going.
Yeah.
Whether we do that, post that straight away, or put that together as an episode, and then depending on the cities we go to and what we see, we'll break that into another 2 or 3 episodes, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Okay.
Deep
So
dive.
something to think about. Again, I'm just thinking of creative content. I'm kind of trying to put on my creative content hat here. Like, do you think it'd be beneficial to your audience? Do you think it'd be interesting to your audience if you did almost like a 3-step formula where you have a preparing for the trip episode, and you're kind of mapping out your goals for the trip, where you're planning on going, what you're excited about, travel preparations, blah, blah, blah. But then you could also, that's where you could input that before the trip audio of suggestions from your audience, and then have a few things in there. You could, place an audio clip and then respond to it. Then you have your doing the trip episodes. And then it's natural. I mean, it's great branding doing an unpacking episode. Like you're back from your trip. It's time to unpack the trip and just kind of go over highlights. And then that's when you could submit that, have it mainly be an audience-based episode of what they've been to Mexico and what they were able to experience that you may have missed out on, or suggestions, or just anything. Questions about Mexico, you could recap some of those, kind of an ask me anything sort of a thing. I think that it'd be extra content, but that's never a bad thing in the podcasting world. So that may even be something to poll your audience on. Like if you have a Facebook group or an Instagram story, or even just email and go, hey, would either of these types of episodes be interesting to you? Doing a preparation episode before, a pre-trip episode, and then an unpacking post-trip episode. Would either or both be interesting? Poll the audience, see what they think. And I don't know. It's just, again, I don't see a lot of travel shows doing that, where they're really mapping it out like that.
Yeah. And, like, would you be, like, I guess as upfront as you can be about the tour we're doing, who we're doing it with, the cost of it, and, the schedule, and what, why we chose it. And,
Yes.
Okay. All that stuff.
Because then when you get, I especially like, well, I like both the pre and the post, because with the pre, you're going to start getting that market of people that are thinking about going there like, oh, I've never been to Mexico. It's been so long since I've been to Mexico. And then you lay out your strategy and why you pick the places that you're staying, where you want to go, and all the why behind it, the cost. That's going to be a resource for them. So now it's no longer just entertainment. It's like, okay, now I've got a little bit, I can borrow some of Leanne's strategy that she's using. And I love that deal that she got on this. This is where your affiliate link can really, I mean, this could, if you have like a relationship with a resort and you get an affiliate link and then it comes back and you can, hey, make sure you use my link. You get a free night stay or something like that. Now this becomes a real resource. Again, they could ask questions. You put an email out going, hey, we're going to be going to Mexico. We're going to record a preparation episode. If you have been thinking about going to Mexico, what questions do you have? Here's are the cities we're planning on being at. Have you ever been there? We'd love to get an audio clip from you with suggestions. It's going to be a part of the show. I think this is all just cool ways to stir it up because, like, again, it's just unique to make our audience a part of the show. And the same thing happens if I'm building a new product, like a new program or service. I do a lot of emails to my list and I let them help me build it. I let them help me name it. I let them help me pick my focus points. I ask them for their pain points. I'm like, okay, I'm creating this course on making money as a podcaster. Where are you really struggling? Email me back. Let me know your top 2 pain points. I'll make sure I include them in this course or this, coaching program or whatever. So the more you do that, the more your audience has buy-in and ownership over your show or whatever it is I'm selling or whatever. So the more of that, and like, I think your audience would really freak out if they get to submit a suggestion and they see you guys go and do it. And then you're like, and on the Unpack episode, you're like, shout out to Adam because he said to go to this bar in this alleyway that had the best wine I've ever had in Mexico. So like that, again, it just makes them a part of it. I think that'll make it really special. So, I think that's the way you become the people's champion of the travel space, and you take your audience with you and you make them a part of the entire journey. And
if nothing else, I guess you're building up the excitement about, going to Mexico, and they might listen to the Mexico full, episodes in depth as well.
Yeah. Now, are you guys doing affiliate links with any of the places that you're going, resorts, anything like that?
We haven't. No.
I would. I mean, Are you getting free anything because your podcaster is traveling to these places?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's set those as 2 goals for this year. And you can kind of knock both of them out and with one connection where, let's say you're staying, like wherever you stay, I would reach out and go, hey, this is Land from the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are going to be featuring your region of Mexico. We are thinking about staying at your resort. We would love to include you in our episode. Maybe you can sit somebody down for a 2-minute interview to get, pick their brain about what's happening so they get some promo exchange. And then I would ask them, like, are you interested in partnering with us and exploring what that would look like? And maybe they can add a free night to your stay. Definitely ask them for referral links, because if you have somebody go, like, that's where I bring those sorts of conversations up. And I've got friends in this space that, like my friend Allison Melody, my friend Laura Powers, they do this all the time, and they go to like Greece and they go all over the world, and it's covered, like covered.
Wow.
And I know Mexico resorts, they've got relationships with certain resorts. They just go and they produce content there, Instagram, and like this is something that you definitely need to explore, because you could be leaving money or at least freebies on the table. And this is something all podcasters, attention, all podcasters listening in, we really need to be thinking about this. Like in our space, we are a media company, and other companies that want to market to our niche will hook us up with all kinds of stuff. Like when I had my health podcast, I never paid for supplements. I got all these free like protein drinks and caffeine energy drinks. They would just send them to me. I got a free $5,000 infrared sauna, like high class stuff, like nice stuff.
Yeah.
Like as podcasters, we should never, ever, ever pay when we attend industry events in our niche. We are a part of the media. We should get a media pass. That means we don't pay. So if you go to like a travel industry event, no way you should be buying a ticket. Like you need to get a media pass, and you get in for free, and you get backstage access to interview people and influencers and stuff like that. So we have to view our podcast as something that can open doors, and we're working hard, and we're building these brands, and there's a lot of people out there that will be willing to pay or at least compensate via hooking us up with cool stuff to get in front of our niche. So definitely test that out. So I would look at where you're staying in Mexico, and especially if it's like a bigger name resort or something like that, they definitely have influencer programs. Like definitely. So I would reach out to their marketing people and be like, hey, this is Land from the Beach Travel Wine podcast. I'm interested in doing a feature and detailing my experience in your resort. I'd like to be in touch with somebody from the marketing team or something like that. And then just, even if you get a hold of somebody and you try this out, you get an appointment scheduled, circle back with me, and I'll help you figure out the verbiage of how you kind of put this out there. And then we can do like a recap where we're like, Leanne got hooked up for a week in Mexico, and they'd have to, like, if you don't have to pay, because obviously you're traveling stuff for your show like this, it's smart because this is a business expense because you're doing your show and all that. Like in the same form, I'm talking my son into doing a youth basketball podcast with me, because we're paying all these expenses from to travel around and do these teams and buying uniforms and all this stuff. And all of a sudden that could turn into a business expense if we're doing a basketball based podcast, and we can get cool, like, again, backstage passes to professional basketball games or college basketball games to interview players. And he's going to freak out and having that kind of access. And it's kind of a novelty being a sixth grader with his own podcast. And yeah, it'll be a cool thing. So always be thinking about, we work so hard as podcasters, we deserve a little bit, of these opportunities that we can take advantage of. So making sense?
Well, yeah, sure. And we've spent, all our episodes basically, talking up the places we've been and places we've stayed and restaurants we've been to. And yeah, sure.
Yes. Yeah. Everywhere you go, I would just make connections. Again, like if you're going to like this alleyway bar and it's just like, you can tell it's not like a major, like they don't have a marketing team. They just got like the dude behind the bar and that's about it. That's one thing. But if you go to major resort restaurants and you're making connections, I would definitely talk to people and maybe get your waiter or ask for the manager and be like, hey, let's get a quick picture for our Instagram. We have a podcast called Beach Travel Wine, and we're going to give you a glowing review. I guarantee they at least bring you a bottle of wine or something, like I know people that have a wine podcast and they just have companies sending them free wine to review every single week, every single month. So you shouldn't be paying for travel. You shouldn't be paying to stay anywhere, meals, wine, all that stuff could potentially be comped at least.
Sounds like a plan. A good plan.
You'll be traveling a lot more often. Like, we're going somewhere every single month.
All the time.
Yeah.
I guess, like waiting for people to come to you is probably wishful thinking. So
we have to go out there and get it. Yep. Be proactive, go out and make those connections, and always just put your media company hat on and just accept the fact you have a media company. It is called Beach Travel Wine. And when you approach these people, you always introduce yourself as, hi, I'm Leanne from the Beach Travel Wine podcast. We're looking at coming to your area, blah, 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 blah. We'd love to do a little bit of a review when we're there. I'd like to talk to somebody in your marketing department, blah, 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 about, how we could, do a collaboration and shine a light on what you guys are doing. And that's kind of the door. And people love podcasts, and people know what podcasts are. And having a little mini feature like that's a big deal. So at a minimum, you should get hooked up with some wine.
I agree.
By golly, you deserve it. And cheers to Leanne.
Cheers.
All right, so I think we unpacked some really interesting ideas here for you to work on homework wise.
Yes.
Let's make sure that if there are any fans of beaches, traveling, or wine out there, they can get into your world. They can connect with you. Maybe they've been to Mexico and they want to share some tips.
That'd be great.
So yeah, where do people go? Website, social media. Let's get all the contact information out there.
Well, our website is www.beachtravelwine.com. So it's pretty easy, and you can access our podcast and our blog posts and all our pictures there. But we are on Instagram at Beach Travel Wine and Facebook at Beach Travel Wine Podcast. They're the two I sort of concentrate on.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Leanne, I think that I don't know. I'm very excited to see where you go with this. I hope that it really takes off for you. I hope that you get lots of new audience engagement with these sound clips. I hope you get a ton of freebies and get hooked up and start getting paid. What if not only did you get freebies, but these companies start paying you? Like, we'll cover your tickets. Let's bring you in. We want you to come to wherever. And I mean, how fun! Like, this is a legit thing that you can build. So very excited, and I definitely want to keep following your story to see what happens. All right.
Thanks.
All right, Pod Pals, if you want to be just like our friend Leanne from Beach Travel Wine, and you should, make sure that you sign up for your own podcast audit. Just go to the website, podcastingbusiness.school, get signed up, and come on the show, and we'll have some fun. All right, Pod Pals, that is it for this episode. I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads and a little bit of wine. We'll see you next time.